What's going on there, YouTube, and welcome back to another comic book video. Alright, so we're going to cover Silver Surfer Ghostlight. This was a mini-series that came out last year, in the year 2023. Now, when it comes to Ghostlight, it was actually a mini-series that was used to kind of show some love over to the character Silver Surfer, but at the same time introduce a new hero. Now, when I say a new hero, I mean there was a character that has been around for literally over 60 years in Marvel Comics, almost 60 years, but this character is now being upgraded into a hero. As a matter of fact, this character had only appeared one time in Marvel Comics, and he appeared in Silver Surfer issue number 5. And so it's Marvel taking that one character and making him a new hero in the world of Marvel Comics. And so getting into today's storyline, we do pick up with someone having a dream where she does see this green man walking into a certain area of the forest. Now, of course, she tries to get closer and closer to the man to kind of learn who it is, but unfortunately, she's waken up by her mother, so her dream is over. Now, once you have the young girl wake up, she is confronted by her mother, who's very upset with the idea that she is not ready to watch over her brother Josh and their grandmother for the night. Oh, by the way, the young girl name is Tony. Now, when it comes to Tony, she kind of gives us a lot of information about this family, because when it comes to Tony, she hates the idea that her and her family have moved into this new house, but across the country. So of course she misses her friends. Now, when I say a new house, I don't mean like, oh, it's a brand spanking new house. No, it is an older house. It's just as new for this family, because this house used to belong to Tony's uncle. But the thing is, he disappeared and no one knows what happened to the man. And because it has been such a long time, he is unfortunately presumed dead. And so in his will, his house was given over to Tony's mother. It was her brother. Either way, you have Tony's mom saying, listen, you know what you have to do. You have to watch over your younger brother Josh, and your grandmother, as me and your father get ready to go out for date night in town. Make sure all doors are locked and do not go in the backyard, or if you do not go near the shed at all. And of course, you have Tony agree, so does Josh, and everything seems okay. Now, I kind of want to focus on Tony's parents real quick. And the reason why, because when it comes to Tony's mother, she does mention that when it comes to them having the house, she feels like it's kind of weird. And the reason why, because the house used to belong to her brother, but the thing is, her brother had disappeared many years ago and no one knows what happened to him. Now, with all that being said, she feels like her brother is still alive out there somewhere, and so she's holding on to hope. But when it comes to her husband, it's like, no, your brother is most likely dead. Unfortunately, nobody knows where he went to. Nobody has seen him, and there were no clues left behind to help police to figure out what happened to your brother. But the thing is, we should feel blessed that we were able to get the house, but to also be close enough to take care of your grandmother, really your mom, the kid's grandmother. Now, getting back over to Tony, she does talk to her grandmother about the dream she keeps having over and over and over again, about the green man who's calling out to her, and every single time she gets close enough, her dream is over. And so it's her telling her grandmother, I don't know what this dream is trying to tell me. Now, this kind of hint that something big is going on in that forest. But the thing is, if Tony wants to figure out what in the world is going on, she's gonna have to go out there and actually dig for some kind of clues to figure out why her dream is telling her, you have to go into this area to figure out who is the green man in your dream. Now, later on, you do have Tony get a call from her cousin Jaden. Now, when it comes to the call, it's your usual FaceTime call. But the thing is, when it comes to Jaden, he kind of brings us the mystery of what's going on in this city, or really in this house, because when it comes to Jaden, he found an article about something happening 11 years ago in Sweetwater, the city Tony and her family had moved to. And apparently in Sweetwater, every single person had forgot a certain day, like the same day no one remembers at all. And so of course it's kind of known as a big huge mystery. Why does every single person in this town does not remember a certain day? And so it's called the Sweetwater Gap. Now with all that being said, of course their conversation does get a tad bit ruined by Josh, Tony's younger brother, but you can tell that Jaden and Josh have a very close bond with one another. Now, after the FaceTime call, you do have Tony and Josh begin to look around the actual house to hopefully find any kind of clues to tell them what happened to their uncle. Now, here's the thing, because they feel like whatever happened to their uncle could be related to the idea of why an entire town forgotten a certain day. Now, while they are looking around the house for any kind of clues, they don't find anything, but they do remember that there is a shed in the backyard that their mom and dad told them to stay away. But of course, these two kids want to find out what happened to their uncle. Why did everybody in this town forgot a certain day? And so of course, they head towards the shed. Now for Tony and Josh, when they do go inside the actual shed, they realize that it does look like your regular shed that contains a bunch of junk that their parents are gonna have to go through sooner or later to sell things or to keep things that were left behind by Tony and Josh's uncle. But the thing is, while they are looking around, they realize there's some kind of hidden panel in the wall. And once they do open up the panel, it's some kind of security code. Now, once you have Josh realize the only way to unlock the code is playing some good old jazz music, well, that is when they find a secret passageway to an underground laboratory. And we already know this belongs to their uncle. Now, when it comes to our two young characters, as they are looking around the actual place, the laboratory, they do find a device. Now, you should know, you should never touch anything if you have no idea what it does. But because these are children, they're like, I'm gonna go ahead and touch it. And they do. And once they do touch it, it releases a huge amount of energy. Now, when it comes to this energy, it is detected by different people, not just on Earth, but also in space. Now, when it comes to the first person who actually picks up on the energy, it's the main hero of the book, which is Silver Surfer. He's kind of like, that energy, I have not sensed that energy in a very long time. And matter of fact, I should not even be able to sense that energy anymore. That kind of power should be locked away for good. And so you have the Silver Surfer head right over to where the children are at. Now, we do jump over to Arizona, and we're not told where, but we do pick up in some kind of secret lab, where we do pick up with a character known as Sombra. Now, we can tell that Sombra is in charge of the entire lab, and the reason why I'm saying that because they are informed by another scientist about some kind of energy that they were able to detect. And of course, it is the same kind of energy that Tony and Josh had just released a moment ago. And so because of that, Sombra is very happy about this discovery. But on top of that, they are informed the energy came from Sweetwater, New York, which tells us that yes, they have been waiting for a very long time for this particular kind of energy. Now, you do have the kids run back over to their backyard to see the energy take form. Now, once it does, it turns into the Green Man. Now, when it comes to the Green Man, it's the same one we saw in Tony's dream. But on top of that, the Green Man recognizes her. but it tells us that he also had dreams about her, which tells us that their dreams were kind of working together to hopefully one day release him from his prison. Now, before they are able to learn who this guy is, well, that is the moment where you have the Silver Surfer appear, and he is very upset because he says, who had disturbed the final resting place of Al Harper? And we kind of find out Al Harper is actually the name of Tony's uncle. So apparently Tony's uncle knew the Silver Surfer. Now, when we jump into the second chapter, we do pick up with the Surfer realizing that the person who's right now known as the Green Man is Al Harper, which means that the Green Man is the uncle to both Tony and Josh. Now, the thing is, Surfer has no idea how in the world his friend is alive again, but you also have Al Harper not remembering Surfer at all. And so when he looks at a Surfer, he's all like, I don't know who you are, but I feel like you are an enemy. And so you have the two characters fight against each other. Now, when it comes to Surfer, he's playing more defense here because he realized the person that he is fighting against is his old friend. And so he's trying to have his old friend remember who he is. Now, once he is able to do that, it now kind of leads into the question, how in the world does Silver Surfer know Al Harper, who is the uncle to Tony and Josh? And matter of fact, you have Tony and Josh wondering the same thing, like, one, how is my uncle alive? And two, how do you know my uncle? So we have to jump back over to the year 1969, where we got the 5th issue of the original Silver Surfer series, where we had a story where Silver Surfer was trying to leave the Earth, but unfortunately he couldn't escape, because that was around the same time Surfer had to quit being a herald of Galactus. Galactus got mad and decided that he was going to create a force field around the planet to trap Surfer until farther notice. When Surfer tried to escape, the force field sent him back to the Earth and crashed near the home of Al Harper. Al made a device that could help Surfer escape the Earth, but the same device grabbed the attention of another character known as the Stranger. When he arrived, he wanted to kill off the entire planet, but Al Harper had sacrificed his life to stop the Stranger. Now, let's talk about the Stranger, who is a cosmic being. The Stranger was a composite being who possessed the combined strength and intellect of the billions humanoid beings who once lived on a planet known as Gigantus, and I really hope I pronounced that correctly. Now, they were at war with a small group of Eternals. Because of this war, the planet of Gigantus was blown up, but a few people of the planet had escaped. They then combined their minds and strength into one body, which created the Stranger, who was made to rival the combined strength of the Overmind. The Overmind is the mind of all Eternals coming together as one. But with the Stranger being a cosmic being, he is really powerful, but he loves science so much that he does different kinds of experiments. So he has a lab known as Lab World. It's an actual world. But his mind is beginning to break only because of all the different minds of the people who combine into the one who are fighting for control. But back to Al Harper, we are told when he was trying to stop the bomb that the Stranger was trying to use to destroy the Earth, Al tried to defuse it. He saved the Earth, but it still went off, but did not kill him. His life energy was kicked out of his body and transferred to Stranger's lab world. Once there, his life form took an actual body form, while his real body was left on Earth. His real body was buried by the Silver Surfer, while his new body was being used for experiments by the Stranger on Lab World. But thanks to Tony and Josh using the same device earlier, his life form body came back to Earth, and here we are in the present day. Now, while all of this is being told to us, well, that is when you have Tony and Josh's parents come home and their grandmother walks out, and they're all confused because now they're seeing their lost son, brother, or brother-in-law right in front of them. Now when it comes to Al, he's kind of like, hey guys, it's nice to see you, but why do y'all live in my house? Because we kind of find out in his will, the house was not supposed to go to his sister, it was supposed to go to his wife. But he forgot. Around this point in time, really, before he had disappeared, him and his wife were already separated. Now, even though he still loved her and he gave her money to survive, and his wife and their son lived somewhere else, he's kind of like, the will had her name down to get the house if anything happens to me. But when it comes to his ex-wife, she wanted nothing to do with him at all, even a big huge house that he left for her. And so of course it had to go to the next person, which was his sister. And so that is how Tony and Josh were able to move in. Either way, you have their parents kind of like, okay, it's great to see you alive again, but where were you? And of course, he tells him the same story I told you earlier. But everyone gets upset with Silver Surfer because when Al had originally died, he didn't tell anybody what happened to him. And so this family has been looking for their lost uncle, brother, brother-in-law, or son for many years. But Surfer did not tell anyone at all. He didn't realize that this man could have loved ones who want to know what happened to him. But we also kind of find out that Al Harper has cosmic powers. Let me explain. So when it comes to Al Harper, when his life form body was sent over to Lab World and of course took a physical form, and you had the actual stranger work on him or use him for experiments, the stranger put inside nanobots inside his life form body. When that life form body went back to Earth, the nanobots also travel along with him. But the way they travel, it was kind of like cosmic. So these are cosmic nanobots that are currently inside of him, making him a cosmic being. With that being said, he's kind of as powerful as the Silver Surfer. Now, while you have our heroes and Al family talking to one another, well, out of nowhere, you have a bunch of teenagers who are currently being possessed by creatures that were made by the stranger that were sent to Earth to capture Al and bring him back over to Lab World. Now, with that being said, these teenagers were working at a nearby campsite. And of course, there were other children there that they were supposed to watch. They were counselors. Now, all of those children began to run towards Al's house because these teenagers are being possessed by creatures by the stranger. And so while you have Al's family and a bunch of kids from the campsite run inside his house, you have Al and Surfer stay outside to fight against the creatures. Now, it does not take them that long to actually defeat all those creatures. But once you have Surfer and Al being able to take out those creatures that were possessing those teenagers, well, inside the house, everybody begins to calm down, but only for a brief moment. And the reason why, because when everybody looks at Tony and Josh, their eyes are green, like something is wrong with them. And the question is, why in the world are their eyes glowing green? What in the world could possibly be going on? Now, when we get into the third chapter, we do pick up with Al and the Silver Surfer still fighting against the creatures that were sent there by the stranger. We kind of find out, even though they were able to defeat the creatures earlier, these creatures got right back up and are continuing to come after Al. Now, luckily, you have Silver Surfer put up a force field around the area, the house, the backyard, all of it, to keep the creatures out for the time being, until they can find a way to actually deal with the creatures, but also the stranger. Now, here's the thing, because let's not forget what happened at the end of the last chapter. Tony and Josh, their eyes turned green. And so you have Al tell his sister, hey, let me take your children, go to my lab and figure out what in the world is going on with them. And so you do have Tony, Josh, their father, Al, and Silver Surfer go into Al's lab. Now, it doesn't take Al that long to try to find a way to fix their green eye problem. As a matter of fact, he does use his new powers to kind of change a device to kind of help him figure out what was going on with their eyes. And once he did that, he did get rid of their green eyes. But here's the problem, because he does tell both Tony and Josh that everything is going to be okay. Matter of fact, he also tells their father that everything is going to be okay, except that was a lie. Because when he goes over to Silver Surfer, you have Surfer tell Al that, hey, I know you lied to them. I know that you're hiding the truth about what's happening to Tony and Josh. Their bodies are changing, and of course, they are developing their own kind of problems, their own kind of powers. Now, when it comes to Al, he tells Surfer, you don't understand human culture. And I'm telling you right now, my main goal is to handle that later on, because we already have enough on our plate right now with different kind of problems popping up left and right. We should handle those problems first and Tony and Josh problems second. And so you have Surfer agree, but at the same time, he still feels bad about the idea of lying. Now we do get a page where we are able to see the stranger is falling apart mentally. And the reason why I'm saying that, because remember, he is the combination of different minds that came together as one. And so now those minds are fighting against each other for full control over the body of the stranger. But either way, they're all arguing about what they should do when it comes to recapturing Al Harper. But getting back over to Al and the rest of the crew, you have the crew be confronted by Sombre Solomon. Now remember, the only thing we knew about Sombre earlier was that she has some kind of secret lab in Arizona, but on top of that, she has been waiting for a very long time for the similar energy that was released from Al's machine to pop up once again. To hopefully find Al, but to also bring him back in. Because we kind of find out that Al used to work for AIM. And that is why he technically lost his wife and his son. Because he spent more time with them rather than his actual family. Either way, when it comes to Sombre, she's all like, listen, you owe me one. You and I are going to work together. I'm going to study you and the energy that you release. She wants to learn more about his cosmic energy. Now, we also kind of find out that when Al was working with AIM, Advanced Idea Mechanics, he also made them some cosmic weapons. And what I mean by that is some blasters that are able to shoot cosmic bullets. And so of course they are able to hurt both Al and Silver Surfer. And so you do have our two heroes try their best to fight against them. But the problem is though, as the fight went on, well, something began to happen to Al, to the point where he was no longer able to fight with Silver Surfer against Sombre and her AIM group. And so, of course, that freaks out Silver Surfer. He grabs Al and they head back to his lab to figure out what in the world is going on with him. Now, with that being said, when it comes to Sombre and AIM, they don't follow Al and Silver Surfer. And the reason why? Because the same creatures we saw earlier that was sent by the stranger to grab Al are now attacking Sombre and also attacking her AIM group. Now, that attack does not last that long. And the reason why? Because the stranger called back his creatures. But Sombre realized that these creatures must be going somewhere very, unique and different, and she wants to know more. And so she also goes into the portal that leads back over to Lab World, the home to the stranger. Now, when it comes to Silver Surfer and also Al Harper, once they are able to get back into his lab, well, we kind of find out that there was a small part of the stranger hidden inside Al this entire time. Now, they're known as the Inner Faction, and what they're telling us is that Over the years, the Stranger began to fall apart because, again, he is the combination of 100 beings coming together to basically battle against the overmind of the Eternals, if it ever comes down to it. Either way, over the years, the minds began to fight against each other for control over the body of the Stranger. The problem is, the ones who are fighting against each other are the more evil spirit people, the more evil-minded people. And so, of course, that began a lot of problems, especially for the Stranger as he done different things across the universe. And so when it comes to the inner fraction, they're kind of like, listen, we are trying to re-establish the original purpose of the Stranger. But the problem is we're fighting against our own people for control over the Stranger. And so we realized the only key for us to win was Al. And so when it came to Al, we basically turned his life form body back into life energy and sent that life energy back into his real body. And so once that was done, he became who he is right now, this guy with powers. But we also realize that we need Al to find a device that he had made for AIM to basically use on us to give us full control over the body of the Stranger. Now, you may not trust us, but just telling you again, we're the good guys, and the ones right now in the Stranger's body are the bad guys. Now, when it comes to Sombre, when she does arrive at Lab World, well, unfortunately, she realized that she may have messed up because she sees all the different kinds of experiments that the Stranger has done in Lab World to different aliens from across the universe. Except when it comes to her, she's all like, okay, am I next? But then she's confronted by the Stranger. Now, when we get into the 4th chapter, we do pick up with Sombre currently being used as an experiment by the Stranger. Now, when it comes to the Stranger, he realized what Sombre wants. She wants to have knowledge about cosmic beings. She wants knowledge about the universe. She wants knowledge about the day where everyone forgot what happened when it came to Al and the Silver Surfer fighting against the Stranger. Now, here's the thing, because he does give her what she wants to know. All the information about cosmic beings, all the information about the universe. He's feeding her a lot of different information. Now, usually when it comes to a regular human mind, they cannot handle all that information all at once. But he's kind of like, no, I want to see how much you can take. And when it comes to Sombre, she's all like, keep going. Even though it looks like she might die from all this energy, all this information being fed to her, she just keeps pushing forward because she wants to know more. She wants to gain more knowledge. But when it comes to the Stranger, he's all like, you know what? I feel like I should help everybody who had forgotten the day I arrived and fought against the Silver Surfer and Al Harper. Because remember, the entire town forgot that day. As a matter of fact, they did not just forget about the battle. They don't remember anything about that day at all. Like waking up, their breakfast, their dinner, their lunch, their workday, none of it. And so now you have the Stranger saying, I'm going to help every single body remember. And so when it comes to the people on Earth and Sweetwater, they begin to freak out because it's a lot of information being regained into their mind. They're kind of like, what is happening? Their minds honestly can't handle it, and it makes them go crazy. But back down on Earth, you have Al and Silver Surfer kind of building up the blueprint of the same device that Al had made for AIM to hopefully use again to help the good Stranger, the inner faction, be able to take over the body of the evil Stranger. Now, with all that being said, as soon as you have the inner faction Stranger say, I'm happy that at least we are able to do some good together, it ticks off Silver Surfer and also Al Harper a lot. And the reason why, because Al's saying, even though you lost your home world and you are 100 people that came together as one being, and you're trying your best to find new bodies for those 100 people, but at the same time finding a planet to live on, you have caused a lot of problems across the universe. Like, don't you realize that when you take aliens or people away from their home world to use for your experiments, you're technically evil, because those folks do not get the chance to go back home. They die or they stuck in lab world forever. And so it's him saying, you haven't done good at all. You are purely evil. And yes, you may be a scientist, but there's good scientists out there who do good things for the universe, or at least for their home world. Where here's you're doing bad things left and right. It's your fault that my life has completely changed. It's your fault, the idea that I'm actually a danger for my entire family, my mom, my sister, my niece and nephew. Like, you have not done good at all ever since you guys came together as one to become the Stranger. Now, while you have Al go off on the Stranger, well, that is when he begins to feel the psychic energy that is coming down on the city by the evil Stranger, because now everybody is remembering about the day where the Stranger arrived in Sweetwater and fought against the Silver Surfer. And so because of that, our heroes and the Stranger are able to feel that psychic energy. And that is when they find out that the entire city is gone completely insane. There are riots happening left and right. And so you have Surfer tell Al, stay here and continue to work on that device while I go out there to hopefully calm everybody down. Because unfortunately, if I don't, the entire city is going to burn down completely. Now, when it comes to Silver Surfer leaving, let's not forget, he put a force field around the area of the home of Al Harper to protect him and his family. But now because he's leaving, the force field gets weaker. And so now AIM is able to use the devices to drill a hole in the force field to be able to go inside and to hopefully grab Al and maybe Tony and Josh as well. But unfortunately, when it comes to AIM, they don't get that far, and the reason why, because the Stranger, the good Stranger, was able to use his powers to kind of kick them back out, like, no, Al Harper and his family is under my protection. So you guys can go ahead and just go back to where you came from. Go back over to Arizona. But when it comes to the Silver Surfer, when he does arrive into the city, he is able to use his abilities to calm everybody down, because he wants them to realize that their actions are actually hurting their city. Their actions are causing a lot of problems for their city. And so it's him saying, hey, listen, you guys are hurting yourselves, hurting each other, hurting your town. Stop it. Yes, I know what you guys are going through is not easy, but at the same time, you have to work together to overcome what you guys are going through. Now, once he says that, he heads back over to the home of Al Harper, where he is confronted by Al's family. Now, at first, Al's family did not like Silver Surfer at all, because remember, he hid what happened to Al. They believed that he was just out there missing. They had no idea that homeboy technically did die, but his life energy was sent over to Lab World. And so it's kind of like, if you knew what happened to our uncle, our brother, our son, why did you not tell us? And his body was hidden the entire time in this area, their home, their backyard. But either way, they watch what he did for the city. And so now they're beginning to actually like him. But getting back over to Sombre, you have Sombre currently just going through the Stranger experiment, where he does take Sombre over to the edge of infinity. Now, when they do arrive there, she began to talk to her mother and father, and it's kind of like their souls are trapped there at the edge of the universe. Now, with that being said, you then have the Stranger continue to kind of push her, run some more experiments on her, where of course she does change into some cosmic being. And with her new powers, she goes back down to Earth. She does a huge explosion attack where she is able to grab Al Harper, and you also have the Stranger there as well as some kind of psychic construct who is able to grab Silver Surfer as well. And so now you have our two heroes in danger, but leading into the final chapter. Now, when it comes to the final chapter for today's video, we do see Silver Surfer and Al Harper going up against the Stranger and also, of course, Sombora, who is currently working for the Stranger. Now, when it comes to the final battle, it does take up most of the final chapter, where you do have our heroes trying their best to fight against both Sombora and the Stranger, but unfortunately, they're not as strong as the Stranger and not as strong as Sombra. Now, here's the thing, because they do realize if they are able to turn on the machine that was made by Al to help the inner faction take over the main body of the Stranger, then everything should be okay. Because once the inner faction is able to regain control of the body of the Stranger, it'll make sure that everything goes back to normal. The problem is our two heroes are unfortunately busy fighting against the Stranger and Sombra, but luckily they have Tony and they also have Josh. Now, when it comes to Tony and Josh, their powers do reactivate once again, which of course does tell the parents that when it came to Al Harper, he lied to the dad earlier about the idea that his kids were completely fine and they no longer had powers. That was a lie. Their powers stayed there the entire time. And matter of fact, you had the Stranger reactivate their powers to kind of help them use their powers to help save the world. Now, we're not told what powers the children have. The only thing we get to see is them use their newfound powers as a way to fight their way over to where the machine their uncle had made is basically at. And so once they're able to get there and they turn on the machine, this begins the downfall of the Stranger, but also the downfall of Sombora as well. Now, here's the thing, because when it comes to Sombora, she was supposed to get there to stop the kids before they were able to turn the machine on, but of course she failed. But once the machine does turn on and everything goes back to normal, she does not remember anything at all. Now, this could be temporarily, but still, she's kind of like, what in the world is going on? Now, when it comes to the inner faction, they are able to take over the main body of the Stranger. And with them being back in control, they begin the process of turning everything back to normal. Now, the way the book truly ends is that you do have Al Harper and his family being able to go back to their normal lives. Now, once they're able to do that, it's time for Al to see his family. Not his, sister, brother-in-law, his niece and nephew and grandmother, or mother, sorry, but his ex-wife and his son. Because remember, he disappeared. And because he did, she moved on. And matter of fact, she moved on before he had actually disappeared. And so unfortunately, when he does go to see his ex-wife, she moved on, she got remarried, but he's not just here for her. He's here for his son. And so it's kind of cool to see him be able to reconnect with his son once again. And we're left to wonder if he'll become a new hero in the world of the Marvel Universe, better known as Ghostlight, a new hero for new writers to use if they want to. But with that being said, please leave me a like down below and subscribe. But guys, see y'all next time. Later.